I'd like to bring the April 25th, 2019 Bristol Borough School District Board meeting to order. Please rise and salute the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Secretary, can we get a roll call vote for attendance?
Mr. Adamson?
Here.
Mr. Parolo?
Here.
Mr. Poliafico?
Here.
Mr. Ciccoletti?
Here.
Ms. Paglione?
Here.
Mr. Rusin?
Here.
Mr. Cullen?
Here.
Mr. D'Angelo?
Here.
And Mr. DeMarcus.
Here. Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Okay, we have some. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Carries. Okay, so we have some reports and presentations, but I have a letter that I'd like to read first. No, we'll do letter first. Good evening, Mr. President. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board another time, this time in absentia. So that the record is clear, you advise me that the board has offered the solicitor position to another. Quite frankly, I am happy for the board, although the rumors are now extended through social media. The record should be clear that since Jeff Poliafico was president a few years ago to as recent as your presidency, I informed the leaders and the superintendent that it was time for a change. I am sure that you will recall the fact that I repeatedly stated that you could even change during the one-year contract. I congratulate the board on its selection, and I will be happy to coordinate my thoughts with my successor. Upon reflection on my 6 years as your attorney, I still recall my first trip to the high school. I was accompanied by then President Charles Groff and Kelly Cochran. I met then Principal Tom Schaefer for the first time. I was in shock to see water cascading down from the roof and into the building. I was troubled with a chimney that was in severe decay. I was concerned with an elevator that was under contract for repair and there was little being done. When I inspected the elementary school, I saw the adjacent ground that was toxic. The incoming board was also faced with substantial division and acrimony, unkind words among members and the public, and in one instance, the throwing of a mobile phone. The board was fortunate enough to move out of the Borough Hall for its meetings and into our own building. We were also faced with the termination of the superintendent and the hiring of Dr. Schaefer to that position. Although a veteran of the school district, Dr. Schaefer never had prior experience in this role. Additionally, the school district lost longtime business manager Joe Rowe. He was replaced by a local young man, Chris McHugh. Similarly, Chris had no previous experience in this capacity. As a solicitor, I was given the task of dealing with a federal lawsuit and our insurance attorney, several tax appeals, grievances, and a number of special ed issues. To be candid but respectful, I had second thoughts about the position that I undertook. The board also undertook the difficult task of balancing a budget and refinancing. Thanks to the members with experience in this role, the board was successful in not raising taxes for the 6 years in which I was solicitor, as well as the successful refinancing. I leave this position knowing that my replacement has no active litigation, no tax appeals to deal with, no special ed issues, and no grievances. I leave at a time that couldn't be better. Our illustrious superintendent is retiring shortly. Dr. Schaefer and I have had the absolutely best professional relationship that a solicitor and superintendent could have. We have collectively joked that there isn't another solicitor and superintendent in the entire Commonwealth that get along as well. My best personal wishes to him on his retirement. It has been satisfying to see our business manager, Chris McHugh, grow in his role. He is an extraordinary young man with a promising future. I leave knowing that his job security is 5 years. The board will need his sage advice in the ensuing months as the new superintendent takes the reins to lead the district. My best wishes to him for a long and successful career. The third new hire during my time as solicitor was Kelly Rosado. She has done an outstanding job as principal to both the elementary school and the high school. Likewise, the district is fortunate to have her friendship. I extend to her my best wishes for continued success. I would be remiss if I didn't include the board secretary, Jen Moyer. When I needed some levity, she was always my go-to person. I always enjoyed her telephone conversations. Oh, and by the way, to the members of the board still listening, Jen deserves a raise. Please remember that your role as member of the school board is that of a public servant. Succinctly stated, you were elected to serve the public. You're an advocate of our children. They have no voice in this process and must rely on the board to do the right thing. Respectfully, I implore you to remember those words. The future of the children count on you. In closing, I thank the members, both past and present, for the privilege to serve. My best wishes to you all. Lou Hornstein. So we have some reports.
We have a presentation this evening from our high school. We have Mrs. Quattrochi here, and Mrs. Doherty. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Quattrochi to talk about our AVID.
Is this, I'm assuming this is my microphone here?
This is your
good? This is
microphone.
okay.
Yes, it
This
is.
is very high tech, so. All right, well, I am here to talk to you about the AVID program, which is a program that we began to pilot last year and have started to expand. Most of you on the board I've known because I have been with Bristol Borough for 23 years. I was hired in 1995. I was probably one of the few people who was hired knowing pretty much absolutely nothing about Bristol Borough. I fell into the position. I was very, very fortunate, and I have really committed myself and invested myself in this district professionally and personally. I moved here, I raised my family here, and my children are going here. And in my time here, I've been able to teach all of the grades that relate to my content area, which is English. So I've been a 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade English teacher. I'm trying to acclimate myself a little bit here between the two screens. So that's just a little bit about me. And like I said, I've had various dealings with some of you, and some of you I don't know as well. I was actually asking who Mr. Rusin was, and now I can put a face to a name, so it's good to know. So a little bit about AVID, and it's important that we do take some time to understand what this program is, because although it's new to Bristol Borough, it is not a new program. The program has actually been around for 30 years. It was started in California, and it basically expanded, and the way the expansion happened was it pretty much permeated throughout California and then made a travel down throughout the south, moving eastward, and pretty much has now traveled up the eastern seaboard, starting in Florida and working its way up. And now we're starting to see AVID popping up more and more in your New England, your mid tri-state and New England area states. So if you haven't heard of it, it's because it really is just kind of expanding into our general region. But the program itself is very, very well established. It impacts about 2 million students each year, and over 6,400 schools. One of the things that's important to understand also about the AVID program is that AVID is not just an instructional program. AVID is actually a school program, a school-wide program that is supposed to focus on 4 domains that the organization feels are critical to have a successful school. And those 4 domains are instruction, systems, leadership, and culture. To tell you a little bit about that, instruction, I think, is the one that is probably most obvious, is when you're trying to make school improvement, you're focusing on the instruction, how students are learning, what type of teaching practices are being used, how students are being engaged, what kind of 21st century skills are being taught, how are students goal setting. Systems has to do with how a school is looking at their operations, and systems can include anything from attendance to scheduling, to the availability of rigorous courses, to the options and availability of professional development and professional learning. The leadership has a focus on a collaborative leadership approach where everybody is kind of united towards a common goal, so that the leader is there to work with other leaders within different content areas, so that areas of need can be better addressed and then focused on as targets for district improvement. And culture has to do with looking at the kind of environment that we are presenting, not just to our students, but also to the community who walks in. So the culture focus is about creating a strong academic culture that really focuses on high achievement, as well as the belief that all students can be given the opportunity to be successful if they possess the drive to do so as well. And our goal as educators is to give them that opportunity to set high expectations and to create a safe and a positive environment for them to learn. So to tell you a little bit about how implementing AVID into a school works, The first step in implementation has to do with the creation of an AVID elective class, which is really like an encapsulated a course where students are selected and they meet for one period daily. That period is actually a period which is into their created schedule. So students who are involved in this, they do not have to arrive at school early to be an AVID elective student. They do not have to stay after school. It's actually a part of their academic curriculum and their program. The point of that AVID elective class is to give students a really focused and intentional time to work on study skills, to work on group interactions, collaborations, to interact with tutors, which I'll tell you a little bit about, and to get some fun, positive enrichment that might go beyond just the normal bounds of a class. And for those of you who follow the Facebook communications page, we've put a few of those challenges up just to let people know some of the little challenges that might not fit into a particular content area, but they really encourage that interaction among students to problem solve. Oops. Back. Okay. So how do we pick our AVID elective students? One of the things to know about AVID elective students is that our AVID elective students are students who we would probably describe best as being students who are in the academic middle. And what I mean by that is that they're students who show a lot of academic potential. They have solid GPAs. But they aren't necessarily at the very top of their class, and they aren't necessarily at the bottom. And the reason for that is because we do have different programs and options for our high-achieving students, things like the interdisciplinary program, and we do offer a lot of resources to some of our struggling students who need some additional supports. So the goal with AVID is to find a way to take students who are in the academic middle and give them supports that they would need to boost them up so that instead of being in the academic middle, how do we get you to take advantage, how do we allow you as students to take advantage of taking honors class, honors coursework, but not just taking an honors class, but being successful in an honors class. We have an excellent relationship, I feel an excellent relationship with Bucks County Community College that offers dual enrollment program. So the goal when I see new 9th graders coming in is by the time they're 11th graders and 12th graders, my goal is I want them to be able to take a dual enrollment class, but to be able to take that successfully, so that it's not just that you're enrolled in the class, but that you are performing as well as you can, and that you have all those study skills and different supports and organizational skills and time management skills in place. Let me focus here. One of the things that people want to know when they're first learning about AVID is how students are selected. And there is a selection process. Not every student who wants to be an AVID necessarily can be an AVID. And I think that's important to recognize. We do have and have implemented a selection process that involves several things. One of the most important things has to do with teacher recommendations, and those teacher recommendations are based on the students' grades. They're based on their standardized test scores. They are based on their behavior in class, showing that desire to learn. Also has to do with the disciplinary record, attendance. We want students who come to school on a regular basis. And in conclusion to all of those precursors of things that we look at, what really seals the deal for students who want to be in the AVID elective class has to do with an interview process. And each student who's recommended to the program, we individually interview. Based on their responses and what they have to say during that interview, that does really give us a core group of students that we want to enroll. At the end of all of that, when we offer acceptance, the student does have to agree. All of our students, we have several students here. I forgot to introduce them, but we have a few students who wanted to come and be a part of the presentation or come and show their support. But they can tell you they all came and they all signed contracts, and they knew when they signed those contracts what was involved, that it was going to require more work than they might had currently been putting into their studies after school. They knew it was going to be demanding. It wasn't an easy A. It wasn't a study hall. And so they're here by choice, which is a really important thing. This is not a program they were placed into. This is a program that they learned about and said, you know what, I really want to do this program. Another thing that's really important about AVID is our tutors. And that is something that AVID calls tutorology, which is, I'm pretty convinced, is a made-up word. Tutorology, I think, is an AVID coined expression. Tutorology is something that takes place in the AVID elective class twice a week. And we actually have a few tutors here. We have Brian Schmuckler, Jake Fry, Nicolette Rivera, and this is just a sampling of our tutors. We have been really fortunate, I think, with the tutors that we have had come in and work with our students. Well, I'll get to that in 1 minute when I talk about the tutors. So twice a week, the tutors come in and show up in our AVID class, and we separate the AVID students into groups of 7 or fewer. And I would say on average, our AVID groups in the tutoring days end up actually being around 5 groups per small group setting. And what happens is that, as you can see by the picture, the focus is for the students to express areas of confusion that they're having in some of their content classes. They come prepared to that tutoring session with a prior concern, a prior area of confusion, and they present to their peers, like, this is something that I'm struggling with. They do a little 30-second presentation and they explain, like, I'm not sure. This is what I understand so far, and this is where I get lost. And then through a process of collaboration, their group basically helps them work through the problem. It is not a reteaching focus, which I think confuses people initially, because tutoring has always been, well, if you come, I'm going to teach you again. And what tutorology does is, I'm not going to teach you again. I'm going to have you go back to your notes. We're going to be asking you questions, and we're going to see if we can come up with the solution by having you really be active learners in the information that's been presented to you in class, what you know collectively, and then kind of processing all that information. Let's see here. So our tutors, just a little bit of information. So we have volunteers. Deb Fine, retired teacher, volunteered with us last year as well as this year. Nicolette is a volunteer from former BHS alumni. We also have people who are currently enrolled in college courses. Gulistan Zavali was a Temple student who was with us last year, who's gone on now, is proceeding to get her master's. Ryan is also a current student, college student. So we have college students, and then we have some current teachers. Last year, when it was able to fit into some teachers' prep period, we had somebody who voluntarily gave up their prep period twice a week to come in and to work with the AVID students. And lastly, our growing population is one of our greatest resources, which are the students we actually already have on campus. And we have Jake Fry actually is one of the tutors that we have here also. And that's what he does. Jake does not necessarily go into the AVID classroom twice a week, but he will go into the AVID classroom on certain days, and he will work with people. And we have about 4 other students who've been trained to be tutors. There is a tutor training process they have to go through. And so what does tutorology look like? Tutorology looks like this. As I said, it has to do with students in these small group settings going up, presenting their problems, their areas of confusion to a group, and then having the students go back and look at and sharing notes that they've taken in class. So what really happens with that, I think, is something that's important to notice, is if one student, perhaps their notes weren't that great that day, hopefully there's somebody else in the class who does have notes, and they really learn not only whatever that point of confusion is, but they also recognize some of the strategies that maybe some of their other classmates are taking in terms of note-taking, and how it is more helpful to be going back and utilizing the information that's being delivered in class. The goals in terms of tutorology is really to have the students be self-advocates, so that instead of not, when a teacher, and as a teacher I can say, does anybody have any questions about this last bit of information? One of the really big problematic things is when there's silence. Nobody has any questions. And you're wondering, okay, well, nobody has any questions. I guess that means everybody understands what we've talked about, what we've seen, and that unfortunately isn't always the case. what I found over the years, and I think other teachers have found over the years, is sometimes it just has to do more with students who don't really know how to articulate where they've gotten lost, or they don't have the confidence to express, I didn't understand that, and AVID is actually giving them that opportunity. One thing I can say about we have Shaquille here, who is an AVID student, and Lil, Alicia came, she got in here, and Kylie, is that they are not afraid to get up and to express themselves and talk about, you know, I liked this, I didn't like this. There isn't that silence. And just, I've been able to be fortunate enough to see that blossom in a lot of our AVID students. Another big focus, it has to do with college and career awareness. Both our 9th grade and 10th grade AVID classes, one of the things that we do is we take them to Bucks County Community College. They got to engage in a class. Jim and Kelly Sell have been wonderful. They were able to do some collaborative activities. And I think one of the things, I don't want to speak for the 9th grade students, the AVID students who are here, but it really gave them a chance for exposure. I know I was never exposed to going into a community college when I was in 9th grade, and they existed when I was in 9th grade. It would have been a nice thing for me to know was available and accessible, especially with our location to Bucks County Community College, how many different ways they could take advantage of it. And one of the things that really came back was how impressed they were. Wow, I didn't know it looked like this inside. Well, it's high tech. They have new seats. They have computers. It's the exposure in and of itself was such a learning experience for a lot of them. Let me see where I'm going here. Another thing that we really have focused on is bringing in guest speakers who can share a variety of experiences. So we've had Dakota Luna, who's one of our past valedictorians, come in. Brendan Rigney, who's currently serving with the military, is flying drones out in Arizona. We've had Valerie Hamilton come in. She runs the Children of God Daycare Center. And we actually had Yashira Ocasio and Amber Moore, who gave a presentation to all of you. Before they presented to all of you, they actually presented to, we had them come in and present to our AVID 9 and 10 students. One of the advantages of having the guest speakers really come in and talk to AVID students is when they're in the building, I might kind of schedule them or ask them to come in and talk to AVID students, but once they're there, we get to utilize them all over the place. Yashira and Amber didn't just talk to AVID students. They talked to my 11th grade students. They talked to other 9th grade students, other 10th grade students. So it really is also looking at one of the goals of AVID, which is once you introduce the AVID system into your classroom, it's really supposed to permeate throughout your building. It's supposed to be contagious, that this is not just helping students who are taking the AVID elective class, it's actually benefiting everybody in the school who can take advantage of some of those things. And that goes into how it's impacting instruction school-wide. Another thing that I think was difficult for even some faculty members last year when we came in and said, oh, we found there's this great program, and Mrs. Doherty and I went to this training, and it was really intensive, but we learned so much. And coming from two teachers who've had quite a bit of educational experience, to come back and say, we learned so much at this, it was exhausting, but it was great, and it was invigorating, and it was rejuvenating. We wanted to share that with everybody, but everybody's like, oh, AVID, AVID, AVID. And I really want to emphasize, AVID is a company name. What AVID is a structure for helping teachers and administrators come together on promoting best teaching practices. All of us who are educators, so we've gone to different colleges, we've gone to different colleges and universities at different times, but we all know what we're talking about when we talk about student engagement. I'm trying to think of some other common educational terms. We know the concepts, but how we might have been instructed on how is best to deliver that can vary from teacher to teacher, from when that teacher went to school to where that teacher went to school. So it really gives us a common language to talk about. You can go in and say, hey, in a math room, you know, it'd be great if there's a word wall here or something like that. Word wall is something that an English teacher will know right off the bat what a word wall is. If you're a math teacher, that might be something that is completely out of your realm of knowledge. So it gives us a way to communicate things that can help students, even though it might not have been something that we experienced ourselves. So ways it's impacting instruction, you know, just some of these pictures. teachers starting off with essential questions in every classroom, which is a basic principle that we've all learned, but maybe it was introduced to us with a different name, and it's just semantics that we're not all calling it the same thing. Now it's kind of giving us that common language. Classroom environment. What things were we all taught about in terms of a classroom environment, and how are we seeing that show up in a classroom environment? So one way of promoting some of these AVID ideas throughout the school had to do with some of the training that we've been really fortunate to have over the last 2 years. The first year when we piloted it was 3 of us who went down to the training. It was Mrs. Doherty, Mrs. Rosado, and myself. Last year, we were really able to kind of, or actually not, at the beginning of this year, I would rather say, we really kind of got to be able to dig in and introduce people a little bit more to what AVID was, and the fact that, again, it's a company name. What they're actually teaching and what they're promoting are things that a lot of our teachers, we already do these things in class, but it kind of caused a lot of self-reflection. How much are we doing this? If we're not doing this, why are we not doing this? If we used to do this, but now we're not doing this, why aren't we doing it anymore? So the training that happened, Summer Institute took place down in Philadelphia. I know Mr. D'Angelo and Dr. Schaefer had a one-day experience where they were able to go for district leadership, and I definitely like to tell, if anybody's interested in doing that, let me know, and I can have you come and join. They have a special presentation just for people who are actually in your capacity as school board members, so by all means, please join us. And then we also were able to do something called the Bridges program. And the Bridges program, what that did was that actually reached a larger group of people. We were able to do that on site, where we had an AVID trainer came to the business office and trained 17 of our 6th through 8th grade teachers, just to introduce them to some of these strategies and techniques that are happening in the AVID elective class. This now gives them a chance to sort of get their toe in the water and start trying these techniques in their own classrooms. And these, if you could see these are actually some of the things that happen. We've been able to, based on the Summer Institute training that I had, that Mrs. Doherty had, and then the Bridges training that happened in the summer, some of us kind of took on the roles of lead learners or instructional learners, where we broke up for some professional development days and talked about just different methods in which you can really engage students so that the outcome is the same in terms of having students learn the material and understand the material, but the method in which they're doing it might be different than how they'd previously been doing it. So these are all our faculty members deeply engaged in learning a few new activities. The instruction is centered on the use of WICR. WICR stands for writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. And those really are the foundations for learning. And those should be the things that are happening in every classroom. Those aren't just things that should happen in an English classroom. Reading just doesn't happen in English. Reading should happen in math as well. Writing, the same thing. Organization across the board, no matter what you're teaching, how are you helping your students be organized? So this is our instructional focus with in terms of AVID, that WICR acronym. And so here's some samples of just different ways WICR has been popping up in our school. And again, this isn't just necessarily the AVID elective class, this is actually how it's already started to expand into other classrooms. That top left picture is actually, Lil, you're actually in that top, for me it's the top left picture. That's a Socratic seminar taking place in Mr. McGinn's 9th grade class. The right-hand picture is actually called an inner-outer circle, which is, it's like a mutation that I learned through AVID of a Socratic seminar, where you have students on the inside who are participating in dialogue with each other. Then you have students in the outside who are participating with a partner on the inside, and they're participating through a shared Google document. So it actually is taking it just one step further. Neither of those classrooms are actually AVID elective classrooms, but that particular technique, it works no matter where you're using it. Again, just some things that you see, and I apologize, it's a little bit far away for you guys to see it there. I can send you the file here, but I think one of the biggest things I've noticed has a whole lot to do with student engagement and collaboration. That in working together, they're really having to express themselves. They're having to really practice working with one another. And I think another aspect that I think has really grown is just their ability to speak in front of one another, which, you know, on a side note, I think is one of the things that educators everywhere are struggling with due to the increase really with how we communicate today in the 21st century, and so much of that being through texting, that it's not verbal anymore. And so when you go to, as one of our avid students was just telling me, when you go to apply for a job, that's always created anxiety, but for students who maybe aren't talking as much as they used to, it creates even more because you haven't had that practice to stand in front of somebody to explain, well, I'm interested in this, I don't understand this. They're not afraid to ask those questions. A lot of focus on note-taking, and I think all of us have experienced having to take notes, and that's great. You take notes in a class, you're getting some information, and then the direction is, well, go home and learn these notes. What AVID is doing is it's actually having students access their notes more, and it's finding ways to have students interact with their notes more. One of the mantras that I learned, I think Mrs. Doherty probably learned, was students should be touching their notes 3 times. There should be at least 3 things you're having students do with those notes to really have them go back and see, well, what did I write down? What did I learn? Well, I wrote this note down, but I have no idea what it means. So focused note-taking is huge, as well as organization. How are you kind of keeping all of this information together? Some of us use binders, and then some of us can do it electronically. Our AVID elective students all have a gigantic binder, exactly. This is just some examples, again, of collaborative activities. Sticky notes are really big in AVID because we really like everybody to be able to feel like they have a voice. So I know it's a little difficult to see, but this was students actually in an 8th grade classroom preparing to write a persuasive argument. One side is evidence against, the middle slide was evidence for, and so what happened was when they were prepping to write their essay, they were all going up and sharing their ideas. In a way that allowed them all to have a voice, but at the same time it wasn't chaotic. So I think that's one of the pluses for me. And the right hand is actually interactive notes. It shows what it looks like when kids are going back and they're actually working with their notes. They're not just memorizing their notes, they're engaging with their notes. A few more examples, because again, as I said, we had 6th grade teachers who were trained in Summer Bridges. We had 7th and 8th grade teachers, so we've got some of our younger students there on either sides. In the middle, we have one of our students who I think has really kind of blossomed in terms of his public speaking and speaking in front of groups, and he's in the process of I don't know, what would we call it when you're debating, questioning. He was questioning a public speaker who was presenting his position. So this is kind of hard to read, but basically it was just a little overview of how we've expanded. So last year we had 3 teachers trained. We piloted a 9th grade program. This year we had, at the high school level, we had 8 teachers trained, and we had Mrs. Rosado came for training again. She was our 9th person trained. So we had a larger group of high school faculty trained, and then we introduced the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to some of these strategies and techniques. So it expanded that way. Mr. D'Angelo and Dr. Schaefer got to go to the leadership, and we're seeing these things happen in classrooms. As far as our growth, the goal for next year is we are going to introduce an 11th grade AVID elective, because the goal is to have this be a continuum, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. So the goal is to next year introduce an 11th grade AVID, potentially have an 8th grade, a designated 8th grade warrior period that focuses on AVID strategies. So it would be something that's kind of dovetailing into the schedule that they already have, but it would have a more intentional focus where they're looking at some of these AVID techniques that they can use for their specific content areas. And by 2021, we hopefully will have incorporated a 12th grade AVID elective class. So somebody who is already a faculty member would be taking on that 12th grade elective class. So one thing nobody asked and I didn't tell you, was what AVID stands for. And I felt that this was actually better. I went over the organization of these slides a few times, but I think it is pretty good to have it at the end so that it sticks in people's minds, because what is AVID? And it stands for Advancement Via Individual Determination. It is acceleration, it's not remediation. AVID is not an elective class to reteach content material that's already been taught. It is an elective class to enhance students' ability to learn and to understand. And I think that really needs to be something that's understood. A student who really isn't interested in coming to school every day, a student who isn't interested in taking notes, a student who isn't interested in improving their performance, actually is not an AVID student. AVID is not a magic bullet. AVID is a mechanism to help these students reach their potential, but they have to want to do that, which is one of the reasons for the interview process and for all those little stopgaps that we have in terms of selecting our students. So, and this is it. What does it all mean? It basically means that with proper implementation and support of that implementation, we will continue to increase the availability of rigorous coursework, really good instructional experiences, authentic learning, which I think is a really important thing. And we'll continue to expand that, not just to students who might be enrolled in an AVID elective class, but have it really permeate, like I said, throughout the building, because it is contagious. And I'm going to actually, Shaquille, I'm just going to note the fact that you had 2 people join you today who aren't AVID elective, so they've already learned, so it's already permeating, okay, in terms of that. So I probably went way over. I practiced this before, and it was about 16 minutes, and now I probably did really, really long time this time. But I didn't know. Yes, Mr.
Introduce everyone, Heather, and the instructors,
Absolutely.
please.
So Nicolette has been phenomenal this year as a tutor who has come in and has just she's been superb. So really one of the things that I think is great with Nicolette is she kind of puts her foot down when one of the students is saying, yeah, well, I didn't do that. She says, well, wait a second. We talked about this last week. We've already discussed this. So she's really built some great relational capacity with the students. They rotate groups every time. So each time Nicolette comes in to do tutoring, she might be sitting down with a completely different group of students, but she gets to know everybody. Kylie's a 9th grade AVID elective student. Lil is also a 9th grade elective student. Jake is one of our peer tutors. And I really recruited Jake because, as some of you might know, Jake had, he sort of started his own study hub group at school, and he was already interested in tutoring. And I was like, that's a guy I want to have come in and help do AVID tutoring. Ryan's actually a former student of mine, and he is also an AVID tutor, also phenomenal. Shaquille over here is one of our 9th grade AVID elective students. And we did, and Alicia, you're in the back. You probably need to move, and Alicia is one of our 9th grade students. Tiana's in the back too. Okay, great. So Tiana came, and they wanted to come because I think especially we had several 10th grade students who unfortunately at the last minute had to cancel for a variety of reasons. But when I talked about, hey, we're going to give a presentation to the school board about AVID, I can tell you right now that the young women and Shaquille, the young women, I didn't want to include you. They were really passionate about wanting to be here to show their support of this program, and I'm assuming that's because it's had some positive impacts on you. So I don't know if there's anything you might want to ask them or.
Thank you. Very good presentation. Good job.
I have a question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Chair. You said that the teachers recommend the student and they interview and they have to go through,
Yep.
attendance and all that stuff. And say that person or that student doesn't make the group, do they have opportunity to next year to come back?
Yes, and in fact, two of the 10th graders who were hoping to get here but unfortunately had some commitments, They both actually joined Avid this year in 10th grade. And so, oops, I'm sorry, see you guys. Oh, that's right, he said he had, I'm sorry, he had, thank you for coming by. So basically, in 10th grade, yes. The idea is, and this is one of the things that happens when they sign the contract, is there is a knowledge when you sign the contract that you will continue in an Avid elective in 10th grade, in 11th grade, and in 12th grade. You do have the opportunity to ask to be removed from the program. It hasn't happened yet, although, knock on wood, hopefully that won't happen. We can, however, ask that there are students who might not be meeting the requirements of the contract. So a student who suddenly starts to have a problem with chronic attendance, there isn't a program out there that I know of that's going to fix that. At least not one that I would have control over operating. What I think that this does is it does give students a chance if they weren't recommended, or and it could have been a variety of reasons. The teacher might have thought, wow, they're fine. They don't need Avid. They're going to be great, but perhaps maybe they struggle a little bit in that transition in 9th grade. And the thought is, if I put this student in Avid, they're really going to, their study habits are going to expand or blossom more, and they become more solid, I think, in that particular content area. After 10th grade, we usually do not encourage that people are joining in 11th grade. And part of that is just because you do want to start to track data that's going to be showing, well, how are these students proceeding? And I think that is kind of hard. If you have a student who suddenly signs up for the program in 11th grade, they have kind of missed, I would say, your two really foundational years, which is 9th and 10th grade. In 9th grade, I think the focus really is introducing the students to just such a variety of so many, and you guys can probably stop for me, but so many different things that they do, that I feel like the 11th graders would really have kind of missed the boat already a little bit. I don't know, is there anything you would want
And
to
part of that
I
contract,
have a question.
Yes.
When does this occur? Is it study hall? Is it?
No, so it's actually an elective class that's scheduled into the school day. So this is one of, if you're a 9th grade student, if you're a 9th grade student, you have 2 periods that are open for elective periods. So, for example, Kylie, you're close and you're convenient, so I'm going to ask you, like, you have Avid as one of your electives. What's your other elective this year? Do you have a foreign language or art? You have gym, okay. So, and that's actually one of the things in 9th grade. I know they will recommend that you do like a gym/health per semester. So she's doing Avid elective as her one elective class, and then she has her gym/health. Next year she'll have Avid elective, and then she can take a Spanish class, she can take an art elective. She's got options.
Very good.
and the parents are part of this contract as well.
Okay, everybody who has signed on as a contract, not only did the students sign on, but their parents also signed on, so, yeah.
The one thing I would say about this whole program that I see as being a key is their growth in being able to advocate for themselves. And that's like such an important skill for success. To be able to say, like, these 9th graders, I update their grades every week. I show them their grades and we talk about their grades. And if their grade has slipped, and I say, okay, what do you have to do? They know what they have to do, and they do it. I went and talked to her, and I'm missing this, and I'm missing that. If you build that into kids from day one, then they're ready to take care of themselves. So many students, when they leave high school, even if they're successful in high school, and they don't know how to advocate for themselves, and they go to a big university,
That was,
you can't advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
you're gonna slip through the cracks.
I think that this might be a good, like, a small little aside. That was actually the focus of Dakota Luna, who was our valedictorian 2 years ago. That was the focus of his presentation, actually, when he came in and talked to the Avid students. He said, I was a good student. I studied, I knew what I was doing. I had a good relationship with my teachers. He went away to a very large university, and he was very humble in saying how much he struggled, and it wasn't because he didn't have the innate intelligence or the academic potential or ability to do it. It was that he did not go and approach his professors. There was a barrier there. And I'm not sure how much that could be equated to coming from a small school, but I think that's something that a lot of students struggle with in general. They see themselves not doing well, and then they don't know how to go and find the help. And that starts in high school. It absolutely starts in high school. And unfortunately, if it isn't something that's kind of overcome, I think it does carry students all the way out through. It does follow students throughout their college careers. They do not necessarily go to find that professor and seek him or her out during their office hours.
But one thing I just want to say is Mrs. Quattrochi does collect what's called soft data and hard data.
Yeah.
And I feel very comfortable in saying that this is a very successful program because of everyone sitting here, but I think it's quite obvious because of the leadership that we have with Abbott from Mrs. Quattrochi. So thank you and all of you. And
she's
Mrs.
my right
Doherty.
she's my right hand
she
person
is, yes.
right there. So, but
Yeah.
thank
But
you.
thank you very, very much.
And thank you for doing a deep dive, really.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Oh,
going through it.
thank you. I hope it's something that as you guys talk about it, I really do hope it's a program that we see continue. I think it offers a really objective way for people to sit down and work as a team. And everybody to kind of know, as educators, to know what is it that as an educator, what could I be doing to improve? I think it helps us focus on our students and say what areas are weak. I think when you look at those 4 domains, it helps us look at systems and say, hey, we need to look at this, our attendance system. You know, I think with our culture, it goes into what environment are we presenting to our students when they walk into the classroom, and what are our students contributing to that environment? So it really looks at all of the players that go into a school setting, rather than just being such an instruction focus. I mean, that is the key, but we're a team. Like, so I think that really is part of the core message there. So, but
Thank you. And thank you all. You don't have to stay. Thank you for
Dr.
coming.
Schaefer, just one other thing. I just wanted to say that, Heather, you're saying, I hope we can continue it, and I know, Dr. Schaefer, this is kind of one of the batons that you're going to hand off. So I know that Dr. Schaefer is committed, and this is a top priority, because, again, after 2.5 years, maybe 2 years or so.
Under 2 years. Yeah.
Under 2 years, we have students getting involved, former students getting it, teachers really getting involved and getting the methodology around, and all the stakeholders. And just in 2 years, it's an outstanding success.
The seed has
And
been
it's-
planted.
Right, so,
yeah.
Dr. Schaefer, you have said to me,
And most importantly, the seed's been planted to the woman next to me, who's still going to be here, and hopefully in charge of curriculum, so that she knows the value of this program in the future.
thank you.
Good, thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Dr. Schaefer.
Yes. The 3rd through 8th grades have finished the English language arts part of the PSSAs. Next week, we will complete the math and science components. This week on Thursday, the interdisciplinary class leaves for Silver Bay. Just to note, kindergarten registration is going to be held here at Snyder Girardi on Monday, May the 6th at 6 p.m. And then Tuesday through Thursday, the 7th and 9th, be held during the day, and the times are listed on the website. The 10th is the prom, and I would like to publicly acknowledge the fact that I've enjoyed an excellent relationship with Solicitor Hornstein. It has certainly been a unique relationship, to say the least. As we both move on to our next chapter in our life, I wish him the very best. And in conclusion, just a reminder, our community forum for Dr. Manitti is going to be on Thursday, May the 2nd, here in the LGI room at 6 o'clock. Okay?
Okay, public participation?
My name's Dory Morgan. I'm part of Snyder Girardi's PAC. I'm the co-chair. This is a shameless plug. Everyone should have gotten a bright or have one near you. Tonight, if you stop at Dairy Delight on 13 before 9 o'clock, they're giving 20% of their profit from tonight back to Snyder Girardi for the PTA. This is a huge help for our school and helps the organization get more resource in for our students.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
What date is that again?
That's tonight,
Tonight?
so talk quickly.
I'm an ice cream man.
Did you let that know so that it could be advertised on our channel and on?
I will. And we also have
When
a
you-
Snyder Girardi PAC Facebook page, which you can join, and we post and there's also a PTA page, but both are wonderful resources for all the things that are happening in the elementary school that the parents are working to get in for our students.
When you need something like that for an advertisement or to get the word out, let us know, and let the superintendent know, and we could have it put on our website and also our TV channel.
Fantastic. I'd love to.
Thank
So
you.
do they deliver?
I hope so, but I don't think tonight.
Anybody else? No? Okay, routine monthly business?
Okay, under routine monthly business, item 5A, approve the minutes of the March 21st, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the March 21st, 2019 meeting. Under item B, approve the list of bills for the April 2019. And item C, approve the treasurer's report for March 2019.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Under new business, item A, approve the appointment of Michael Weber as district auditor to conduct the audit for the 2019-2020 fiscal year at an approximate fee of $35,000.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, approve the appointment of Cordisco and Sale as district solicitor for 2019-2020 school year. Monthly salary not to exceed $3,700.
I got a question. Who initiated the need for a new solicitor, and why did we receive this letter from Cordisco prior to our solicitor resigning or being replaced? It's a generalized question, whoever wants to answer it.
I can't answer it, John. I can't, so
I
I don't
don't
think anybody
know.
else can, but I can.
Yeah. Well, I guess there is no answer.
We need a roll call vote on this?
Mr. Adamson?
Yay.
Mr. Parolo?
Yes.
Mr. Poliafico?
You need a second.
I second it.
Thank you.
I think, well, I mean, I know that this situation could have been handled in a better way, a more professional way. I think there should have been a board meeting or a personnel meeting, some type of meeting to inform everybody or have some type of, open discussion about it. Rather than have it done through text and email and probably phone calls or whatever. I'm really disappointed in the way this is happening. The surprise of it, to being, left in the dark about it. So for those reasons, I abstain.
Mr. Chicoletti?
Yes.
Ms. Paglione?
Yes.
Mr. Rusin?
No.
Mr. Cullen?
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes.
Mr. DeMarcus?
No.
Okay, the motion is passed.
Okay.
Item C, approve the Berkheimer tax administrator to continue collecting the occupational privilege tax.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item D, approve the following depositories for the 2019-2020 fiscal year.
Second. Thank you.
PA Liquid Asset Fund, Fidelity Savings and Loan, Penn Community Bank.
Second, Mr. Chicoletti. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Make it work.
Okay, item E, approve the Bucks County Technical High School budget for the 2019-2020 school year totaling $29,894,030. The Bristol Borough School District share is $804,930, and that represents a decrease of $18,320 from the prior year.
Second.
I second that, and I know that Mr. Adamson, and I don't know, Mr. Rusin, were you there at the tech school?
Yes.
For the meetings? And-
Yes.
And you guys are okay with this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you got to see all of that stuff that went in the budget process, right? And you're happy with that?
Yes, and it's going to be changing in another year, I think it is, that they had to run a cycle on what everybody paid, and that's coming to an end, so it'll be a new chapter to the finances, so probably ours will go up a little bit because ours is down, and there's a few schools that increased a lot. You know, that they're upset that they increased, but that was part of the old system, so they're gonna be starting a new system, and we'll see how it plays out. Might be fairer.
Thank you for, you and Mr. Adamson for attending those meetings. I know that between our meetings and those meetings, it could be a lot, so good job.
Roll call. Mr. Adamson?
Yay.
Mr. Parolo?
Yes.
Mr. Poliafico?
Yes.
Mr. Chicoletti?
Yes.
Ms. Paglione?
Yes.
Mr. Rusin?
Yes.
Mr. Cullen?
Yes.
Mr. D'Angelo?
Yes.
And Mr. DeMarcus?
Yes. Carries.
Item F, approve the following medical personnel for 2019-2020 school year. Paul Raven, DDS, school dentist, $525. James Daniels, DDS, school dentist, $300. John Pickard, DO, school physician. He performs athletic examinations at a rate of $10 each.
We get a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item G, approve to advertise for the acceptance of bids for seal coating maintenance services for the Slider Variety Elementary School parking lot.
I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
How many bids were received, and what were for? What was it for?
For this,
Yeah.
we're just advertising 2 bid.
Oh, you're going to
Yeah, so-
advertise 2 bids? Oh,
So in
okay.
probably in the June meeting, we will accept the bids that were received.
Okay.
And award a bidder.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Same thing with H.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, could you, maybe Buildings and Grounds, could you explain what this is for, or, you know, what's going on quickly?
Oh, for the parking lot?
Yeah, just,
Yeah. Now, the parking lot's going to get resurfaced with the lines and numbers
that's right.
on it. Then the administration building has to be done. So that's going to get redone too. And along with that, we're hopefully, I think the windows are on here too for the high school. So you should be seeing about at least 40 windows being replaced at the high school.
yeah, Dr. Schaefer, those, you know, I mean, the lines and the numbers are as part of, for security reasons, right?
They
Could
are.
you explain that?
Yes. It is not mandated at this time, but the state is looking to mandate that all employees are assigned a specific parking space. So I think if we do this now, we're at least ahead of the game by numbering all the parking spaces.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
So we go to item H, was approved to advertise for the acceptance of bids for blacktop maintenance services for the Bristol Borough Administration Building parking lot.
Can I get a second?
Me.
I have a question. You're saying blacktop maintenance. What's that entail? What is maintenance of blacktop?
Well, they're probably going to have to dig it up. Both grades need to be looked at because they're falling apart.
Is that just sealing it? Is that what you're talking?
Nah, they're
This
probably
is,
gonna
this is
have
a
to-
repave.
Yeah.
They're totally repaving the parking lot.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say that here, so I think you're gonna have to maybe change the wording when you put it out to bid. If you're looking to tear it up,
All right, can we do that now?
What's that?
Can we do
Yeah,
that
you
now?
can change it, yeah.
So what do we want to make it? Approve the total repaving? Yeah,
That's what
okay.
has to be done, might as well put it that way, repaving.
Is it all?
Okay, so we can take a step back on item H, approve to advertise for the acceptance of bids for blacktop repaving
Is that the total lot, the whole lot?
Yes.
Yes?
services for the administrative parking lot.
I mean, I guess whoever comes out to bid will recommend what they think should be done. I mean, I don't, that's how bids normally work, unless you're going to be specific on what you want them to actually bid.
Jeff,
This should be,
when you guys looked at it, what did it look like?
I had nothing to do with it.
this lot's in pretty
We
bad
have the
shape.
bids ready to
shape.
go out,
This would be
so
similar
it
to what
is
we did at the high
specific.
school parking lot.
It is?
What we need, yeah. Everything's in the bid that's going out.
Well, maybe it's all not written here, but it's all in the bid.
Yeah, it's all in the bid specs, and they should have been attached to the agenda.
That's all
the
right, that's all right. So
computerized agenda.
the question,
All right, so we did have a second?
Yes, you want a second?
Second.
John,
Okay.
I think John.
John Reed.
John was in.
Thanks, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Okay, item I, approve the attendance of 4 representatives to attend the 21st Century Summer Symposium, July 16 through 19, 2019, in Washington, D.C.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns about this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item J, approve to advertise for acceptance of bids for the Bristol High School window replacement project.
Can I get a- Thank you. Questions or concerns? All in favor?
The bid-
Aye.
The windows that was put in were done very well and very nice. It's going to save a lot of money with, with cooling and heating and less grass. But whoever did it did a professional job, and everybody's happy with it that looked at it.
John, I haven't had a chance to see it. I know everybody's been asking me, but I had a question, and is that when the sun hits that window, does it tint, or are we going to need shades, or does it,
I don't think so.
it doesn't tint?
I don't think it does it?
There is a,
In it.
It's in your office.
there is a
UV
tint to, you still need a shade, but there is a tint to it.
Okay, so when this, okay,
So it's not as glaring.
okay. That was just,
So when we do this, we may want to look at doing something a little darker tint
In the
for
front,
that
yeah.
side of the building,
Yeah, in the front,
If it gets
front
much
side
sun.
of the building, yes.
where the classrooms are. I mean, that's something, to decide on later on, or get a price on that, whatever.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Item K, approve the Bristol Borough School District Special Education Comprehensive Plan for 3 years as required by Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries. Personnel?
Item 7A, approve permission of summer days for Dr. Damon Smith not to exceed 10 days.
Can I get a second?
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item B, approve permission to advertise for all 2019-2020 supplemental positions as per the master agreement. Position list is attached.
Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item C, approve permission to advertise for summer help. Rate of pay as per negotiated contract. Deadlines for a letter of interest due no later than Friday, May 10th.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Adamson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item D, Approve permission to advertise for extended school year teachers, district assistants, and a nurse. Rate of pay as per each bargaining unit's agreement. Deadline for letter of interest due no later than Friday, May 10th, 2019.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item E, approve permission for the board secretary to attend the PSBA Board Secretary Conference, July 30th through 31st, 2019.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Adamson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item F, approve permission for Donna Freight to take Friday, May 10th without pay.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item G, approve permission for Kristen Fate to take Friday, May 10th without pay.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chicoletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item H, approve permission to advertise for a certified elementary teacher, salary and benefits as per the master agreement for a one-year contract.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chicoletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item I, accept the resignation of Michelle Torres, district daily substitute, effective immediately.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item J, approve permission for Susan Spadacino to take days without pay, and the dates have been submitted to Dr. Schaefer at the request of the employee.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Carries.
Item K, approve the appointment of Diane Hailstone, van driver, at $13.20 per hour with no benefits, as per negotiated agreement, effective immediately.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chicoletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries.
Item L, approve the following list of teachers to attend the summer AVID training program, July 15th, 16th, and 17th, 2019.
Second.
Ron McGinn, Sheila McIntyre, Heather Catroci, Erin Renard, and Michelle Stenner.
Second by Dave Chicoletti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And that looks to be it. No, it hasn't?
Mayor Agus?
Hi,
How are
good
you?
evening, everyone. Just a quick announcement. I wanted to announce that tomorrow evening from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock up at the Bucks IU, we're hosting our third annual high school prom. It's held at the IU building. The theme is Hollywood Stars. We're expecting our biggest turnout yet with 70 students with special needs from across the county, from across the 13 school districts in Bucks County. We have 50 adult volunteers turning out to support the event. It's bound to be an exciting, emotional milestone event for the students, their families, and our staff. So,
Thank you. Okay, information for discussion. Next public meeting is scheduled May 16th, 2019. And why don't we go around? Anybody have comments? Mr. Polyafco?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Adamson?
One thing, there's going to be a car show at the tech school on Saturday from 10 to 2.
Thank you. Mr. Parola?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Chicoletti?
Nothing, Mr. President.
Mr. D'Angelo?
I'm good.
Ms. Pagliano?
I'm good.
Mr. Rusin?
Yeah, there's going to be a annual plant sale at the Bucks County Tech School from April the 29th through May the 3rd, from 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. And it's, from what I hear, it's really a nice one. So
When's
please,
the date
please
again?
try to attend. April 29th to May the 3rd, from 8 to 1 p.m.
Thanks.
Mr. Cullen?
Yeah, Dr. Schaefer, how many years is Silver Bay? How many years have we been going there?
I think I was the first class,
18, is it?
probably 97, so 22. I went to Silver Bay, I think the first time in 10th grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I know it's an amazing program that they do. I'm just curious how long it was.
Yeah, and one thing about the Silver Bay, the BAA, the athletic group, they just met the other night, actually on Tuesday night, and they, I believe, gave another $1,000 to help out defer some of those costs, because it's a great trip, but we want to thank those guys for coming up with the money.
Also, Gene Williams at the AOC also supports the trip as well.
And the Education Foundation.
It's just a great program, I know that.
Mrs. Rosado?
I just wanted to congratulate our teachers and our students. As you were able to walk through the hallways because you were displaced from, number one, the conference room because of secured our testing materials, so relocated to the Family Consumer Science room, and you got to see all the artwork displayed in the hallways, from drawings to pottery. The Spanish and Italian teachers were here showing what they're doing in their programs, and then we had our elementary band play next door, as well as the choir sing. So congratulations, the students did great. The band, I mean, if you've been to an elementary band concert, you know, that's hard work, reading music and, you know, getting the right sounds, but they did amazing. So maybe we'll have a marching band in our future, but it was an excellent, so congratulations to Mr. Molden, Mrs. Snyder, Ms. Gavello, our art teacher, and of course, Ms. LaFreda and Mr. Shonley. So we're just proud. It's a nice time to see all that. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make the same comment. I mean, it looks great in the hallways, seeing all the artwork, and I can barely draw straight lines, so seeing some of those things out there, it's pretty amazing.
Very talented.
Yeah.
You just want to remind everybody about next Thursday? Yes? Okay. And we hope everybody from the public comes out, and parents and students, to meet Tom's successor.
At 6 o'clock, yeah. And actually, you'll see, we're going to have our high school chorus here.
Great.
Performance. That's going to be great as well.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.